Hello substreamers and welcome back to Substream News, or rather ni hao substreamers, because this week's first story comes all the way from China, where the world's largest gold deposit has recently been discovered. An incredible $80 billion worth of gold is in this deposit, but it won't be easy to extract. Some of it, or large parts of it, are about 2 miles underground. But yes, Chinese explorers have struck rich gold veins, and news of this discovery saw gold spike. Actually, price went up to $2,700 per ounce. Now, actually, that is surprising because usually when a huge influx of supply comes on the market or will come to the market, the price goes down because, it changes the supply and demand mechanics. So no one actually knows why the price did go up, but good news if you're holding gold. Now, here's a fun fact. If you melted down, or first collected, all of the gold in the world and later melt it all down and put it into a giant cube, it would be 22 meters across, which is actually not that big. That's probably not that different from the size of this park. So if I imagine this, I would have thought there was a lot more gold than that. But in terms of volume, that is a lot of gold. Anyway, welcome back to Substream News. That was our first story. We're going to move on to the next story. But before I do so, I just want to say massive thank you to the recent influx of new subscribers joining the Substream mission. Thank you so much. We're inching ever closer to 500 subscribers, where we unlock a bunch of new YouTube community features. Looking forward to that. There will be some exciting new developments off YouTube when that does occur. So you'll learn more about that when we get to that milestone. Please help us do so if you're not yet subscribed. Let's move on. Something weird is happening on planet Earth. The Earth has tilted 80 centimeters in just how long? 20 years. Sorry, it's really bright where I'm standing, so I'm going to put the shades back on. Yes, a 20-year time period has seen an 80 centimeter tilt in the Earth axis. Now you might think that's absolutely nothing, that's probably normal, but it's not normal. Actually, the Earth doesn't rotate on its axis normally. This is a result of pumping groundwater. Now, who would have thought that each time you pump groundwater, you slightly change the Earth's tilt? But that's what scientists are saying. Now, they could be lying. They have been known to do so, but I actually love to trust the word of scientists when they've really done their research, and they have. At a university, at Seoul National University in South Korea. Now, Ki Won-so, who is the study lead, said, and I have a direct quote from him, "Our study shows that among climate-related causes, the redistribution of groundwater actually has the largest impact on the drift of the rotational pole." Now, how much groundwater does it take over 20 years to cause an 80 centimeter shift in the Earth's rotation? I don't know. We don't have the data. We may never have the data, but it's a lot. It's a huge amount, more than I could ever drink in a lifetime. I'm absolutely sure of that. Guys, let's move on to the next story. And just consider the next time you go to drill some groundwater, pump some groundwater rather. Excuse me, Mr. Mosquito, leave me alone. Just consider the next time you go to pump groundwater, the effects you're having on the entire planet. Now, the oldest firearm in the US has just been discovered. It's been dug up by archaeologists. Quite incredible. This is a 40-pound or 20-kilo hand cannon discovered in Arizona, and scientists or archaeologists, they're kind of trying to put together the picture of this weapon, and what they believe is that it likely belonged to one of history's most famous and notorious conquistadors, although he may actually never have used it, which is a massive shame. So all the way back in 1539, his name was Vasquez de Coronado. He mortgaged his wife's belongings and took out massive loans to finance an expedition to North America. What a guy, what a brave guy. Yes, the Spanish conquistador then took 350 soldiers to try and find the now we know to be non-existent, 7 cities of gold somewhere north of Mexico. Unfortunately, instead of untold riches, Coronado and his men just spent the next 3 years plundering, enslaving, murdering their way across the region and succumbing to various diseases and natural elements, let's say. He ended his expedition in Mexico City after several years, completely bankrupt, morally bankrupt too, facing war crime charges, but they say his influence on North American culture would linger for generations. I could say it still lasts to this day. So the thing is, before they headed back to Spain, it was reported or rumoured that they didn't take all their belongings with them. They actually buried them somewhere. So these discoveries of his gun and other things is actually a massive haul. Could have been in the ground almost 500 years. Now it was discovered, I'll tell you where, in Arizona's Santa Cruz Valley, along with an olive jar, glass shards, European pottery, and weapon components. That's where they found the 42-inch long bronze cannon. Now, some may know this as a wall gun. It's an early firearm that required 2 operators and was generally used as a defensive weapon mounted on a wooden tripod. But they believe in Coronado's case, based on tales around him, it would have been utilized for attacking adobe structures of indigenous settlements. What a story. What a gentleman, what a lovely peacekeeping guy. What happens next to the gun, the firearm? I really don't know. But I think it's a really cool story, and I hope you enjoy that one too. I love to get a bit of history into Substream News when the chance arises. Let's move on to the next story. Now, Macy's is one of the US biggest department store chains, and it's a household name in the US, I wasn't familiar with it until I read this incredible story that said this quarter's earning reports had to be delayed. They couldn't publish them on time because one individual in their accounting department made so many errors, so many clerical mistakes, that it really messed up their entire system. Now, these were not minor mistakes. The discrepancy for the expenses that were intentionally hidden by this accountant, who perhaps might have been unqualified or underqualified, accounted to $154 million over 3 years. Because of that, they had to do an internal forensic accounting investigation to really discover the extent of the mess up, let's say. Obviously, that employee has now been fired, or is no longer with the company, the diplomatic terms that they use. Here's the quote: intentionally made erroneous accounting accrual entries to hide small package delivery expenses. Let me get that again. They were trying to hide small package delivery expenses, presumably to themselves, right? Like they were using the company to send packages out for free, right? And so in trying to hide those costs, they made $154 million worth of errors deliberately in the accounting system. That's like trying to put a fire out with gasoline. Didn't end well for that person. Macy's says they actually still don't know really why the employee did it. There's no logic behind it. Now, this news, unfortunately, is not going to help Macy's cause because their stock is down 20% this year, and department stores around the world are kind of dying. They're not as popular as they once were. So, unfortunate for Macy's, but it's December. Christmas is just weeks away. Let's hope they have a really great month. I'm sure people love to spend loads of money this month. Anyway, let's move on. Do you have an Amazon Prime subscription membership, right? If you're in the US, this story will affect you. And I bet there is someone watching, probably a few people watching, that do have this membership because they're very popular. Amazon is obviously one of the biggest companies in the world. Now, what's the news? It turns out, now this is really bizarre, that if you have the Amazon Prime membership, some things are showing up as more expensive, some items are more expensive than for people who don't have the Amazon Prime membership. That is worrying. A recent TikTok exposed this issue and it received hundreds of thousands of comments, millions of views, thousands of people revealing that they also experience price discrepancies. Now, Amazon does not strictly follow its own delivery window promises, which is another major complaint. So we have these two big complaints here, is that the price discrepancies, and they don't actually follow through on the delivery promises they made. These two comments were thematic throughout this TikTok expose, and said that why tens of thousands of people are cancelling their Prime memberships. Well, what did Amazon have to say on the matter? They had to respond to this one, and they said, "The information in this video is incorrect. Amazon does not increase prices on Prime purchases to cover shipping costs." That's what people suspected, right? So if you have Prime, you get free shipping. So they thought, okay, well, if non-Prime members are seeing things cheaper, it's surely because they are wrapping up slyly the shipping cost into the price for Prime members. They claim that's not what's happening, but they added, "We know saving money is important to people, and we work hard to deliver the most value possible to our customers, helping them save more and spend less when they use Prime and shop with Amazon." I think they're completely avoiding the real issue here. They have just denied it, even though there is not just anecdotal but factual, demonstrable examples of this happening. So what is really happening here? It could be geo, it could be cookies, could be all sorts of reasons, but I don't believe that Amazon would intentionally do that, because it would only come back to bite them on the butt. What they can do is do better with deliveries and make sure that they're not charging people different prices. Maybe it was magic, maybe it was voodoo, who really knows? But I'll tell you what I do know, we're going to move on to the next story. Let's go. Well, much like that Amazon story, much like that Amazon story, I'm going to finish with a piece of news I can't even believe made the news. It must have been a really slow news day, about another customer who got less than they bargained for. So Harry Seeger, he's a British guy, he bought a Mars bar, and when he opened the packet, he saw that the Mars bar was completely smooth, which is strange because typically they have a vein of caramel that runs along the top, right? It's symbolic of Mars bars, but it wasn't. It was completely smooth, and he was like, "Don't know about that. Don't like that. Want to find out more. How does that even happen?" So he contacted Mars and he sent the Mars bar back, and they sent him £2, £2 English. That's about $2.40 in compensation. And he said, "Okay, great. Well, now I can buy 2 Mars bars." That's a nice outcome. But what he really wanted was not compensation. He wanted an explanation. He wanted to know, how does this even happen? And so he reached out to the Dull Men's Club, right? A huge Facebook group for British men who consider themselves to be dull and who like factoids and being always right. And what a wonderful place. I might fit in there well myself. They told him that what likely happened is that the machines that sort the chocolate bars as they come through blew it off by accident and just missed it by mistake. Now, this actually happens quite frequently, and what happens to the bars that don't complete as they should, they usually end up as part of other confectionery. And I didn't know this, but if you've ever bought, say, a Mars bar ice cream or a Mars bar cake, Mars bar cookies, the piece of it that's Mars is often factory line rejects. It just happened that Harry Seeger was lucky enough or unlucky enough to buy a factory reject that had slipped through the net, and they don't happen very often. So congrats to Harry. I'm not really sure if that's the right word, but that, guys, is all for this week. Please don't accuse us of also having a slow news day by recovering a slow news day story. I think that last one's quite funny. Let me know in the comments about any of these stories. If you have feedback for us, We'd love to hear it. I know there was some people who said they don't like me holding the microphone. I will end the video hands-free just for you. Thank you so much for watching. This is Substream News. I am Joseph, your presenter. I like holding the microphone. I also like Mars bars, and I also like gold. I like all of the stories in this. I think it's a good collection. If you agree and you're not yet subscribed, please do. If you want to do further reading, I implore you to do so. Reading is good for the mind, and all of the links are down there in our video description. That's it for this week. See you next time.